Hello, hi, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, so am I. My name is Katie. I've recently realized how much I hate my job, so I started reading a lot, and then I realized how much I love reading, and I thought, why not talk about books on the internet for fun? So here we are. Disclaimer, I'm not a professional. These are obviously all of my opinions. But yeah, so I just thought that my intro video would just be what I read in the month of March. It wasn't a ton of books, so don't be shocked. It was only 5. But I'm pretty proud of that. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we started off strong this month with this book called The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you say his last name. Oh, also another disclaimer. When I read things in my head, they make sense. When I say them out loud, like names, I realize I'm pronouncing them wrong, and I just need you to pretend that I'm actually pronouncing them correctly. Thank you. Anyways, back to this. So when I say I started off strong, I'm joking. This book was actually terrible, and I gave it 2 stars. Let me explain why. So the premise of this book is there's this therapist. Her name is Mariana. Again, ignore it, say pretend I got it right. She's some therapist, and she does group therapy. And pretty much there's these girls that are dying at this university that her niece goes to. Her niece's name is Zoe. I call her Zoe in my head. Again, I don't know, Z-O-E, could be Zoe, could be Zoe. Again, pretend that I got it right. Anyways, so Mariana kind of like decides to go down to the university and solve these murders, which could maybe explain to you why I gave it a 2 just by that description alone. Why is a group therapist going and becoming a detective? Who knows? However, I was really disappointed with this book. I literally bought this book. I thought this was going to be so good because this author wrote Silent Patient, and that book had me in a chokehold. Like, I think I literally read that book in one day and I gave it 5 stars. Like, I never saw that ending. So good. And so when I read the premise of this, like, this is, I think it's supposed to be like dark academia, kind of, because like you find out that there's this like secret society where there's like one professor that like is leading the secret society with like all these like girls at the university, and these are the girls that are dying. And so I don't know, in my head I was like, oh, that's gonna be so interesting, right? No, it was not, unfortunately. There's just so many plot holes. I also hated the main character. I thought she was so annoying. And if you have read Silent Patient, there's actually like a callback to Silent Patient in this book. And I don't know, I think he also wrote another book called The Fury, which I have not read, but I've also have not heard great things about. And I think there's also another callback to the Silent Patient in that book too. So I wonder if he's gonna make like another book and like somehow bring them all together. I don't know, don't quote me on that though. But yeah, I just like, unfortunately, I don't really recommend this book. If you like this author, I'm really sorry. If you liked this book, I'm glad that you liked this book. However, it was not for me, so I gave it 2 stars. All right, so the next book that I read this month was called Defending Jacob by William Landay. So this book has actually been made into a TV show on Apple TV with Chris Evans as the main character. His name is Andy Barber. He was the assistant director attorney for this like small town. I haven't actually seen the TV show, so I don't really know. My sister recommended this book to me. She said it's like one of her favorites, so I thought I'd give it a go before I actually watched the TV series. I haven't seen the TV series yet. I did give this book a 3.5. I thought it was good. However, it wasn't my favorite. But I guess let me give you the premise of this book. So like I said, Andy Barber, the main character, he is the assistant district attorney for this like small town, and he has been for a long time. And it's his wife, I think her name's Lori. I'm so sorry. I haven't read, this book was like the beginning of the month and I kind of forgot her name. And then their son, Jacob. So it's those 3 people. And pretty much what happens is there's this kid, his name is Ben, he's murdered, and Andy's put on the case at first, and then some things come out that kind of point to maybe it being Jacob, his son, who ends up murdering Ben. And so this whole book is pretty much just like trying to figure out, did Jacob do it? Did Jacob not do it? like the reason I gave this book a 3.5 is because I personally like did not really like Andy, which I think was the point. Like he's supposed to kind of be an anti-hero. However, I don't know, there are some points where I'm like, I just don't like you. And I think also, so I don't wanna like ruin, like I don't wanna spoil it, but you do find out that Andy's dad and grandpa both were criminals. So like there's this whole like, is there a like genetic bad gene, right, that would like make somebody a criminal? And so it kind of like gets played like, oh, does Jacob have this bad gene? Stuff like that. So I just felt like that was like, it was supposed to be interesting, but like also, I don't know, I thought it was kind of a little far-fetched. So what I really liked about this book, and I thought I did a really good job, is bringing up the ultimate test of like a parent, right? So obviously Andy throughout the book believes Jacob did not have anything to do with this murder, even when there was like a lot of things pointing to him that like maybe he did. So for instance, again, I'm not gonna give away too much, but there is like one of the main things that's like pretty much right in the beginning is that they find Jacob's thumbprint on Ben, the murdered kid. Yeah. And so like Andy in his head is like, oh, like there's so many reasons why that could be there, blah, blah, blah. And Andy's wife kind of has her doubts, and she's like, well, what if he actually did do it? Like, do we defend him no matter what? Or like, do we, you know, like admit that our son is a murderer and like support him in that sense? Like, hey, like let him know that like he needs to own up to the fact that he murdered somebody and like needs to be punished for that. So I did really like that. However, we don't get the wife's perspective. Like we only hear it from Andy, and so you don't get it that much. Like most of it is all of Andy's perspective about how, you know, Jacob didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of wish that maybe it was in dual perspectives, like the wife's perspective and Andy's perspective, because then maybe we could get more of that, you know, conflicting like ultimate parent test, right? Like, do you stick by your kid no matter what, even if like they did do it? Or like if your kid's a murderer, like, do you let them take the blame for it? You know, I know why they don't, like if you've read this book, then you know why they don't give you the wife's perspective. However, I kind of think it would have been very, very interesting if they did. All right. So the next book I read in the month of March is called Someone We Know by Shari Lapena. Something I want to say before I go into this is I read literally everything and anything, like fiction, nonfiction, sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers. I feel like a lot of the books that I've read this month, the first 3 anyways, were thrillers, or yeah, I would call them thrillers, I guess. I was just kind of like in a thriller mood. Like I wanted a mindfuck book. However, I feel like none of these really gave me the mindfuck that I wanted, so I definitely pivoted. But I do just want to put that out there. So if you're like, oh, I'm not a thriller person and you want to click off this video, that's totally fine. However, these are the only 3 thriller books I read. Okay, cool. This book starts off like right away with the murder of Amanda Pierce. And at first you don't know it's Amanda Pierce, but you quickly find out it is Amanda Pierce. Amanda Pierce is this like neighbor. She's married to Robert Pierce, who's like, they're both like very attractive young people in this neighborhood. They don't have kids or anything, and they're new to the neighborhood, but not that new. I would say like a year into this neighborhood. And then after that's the first chapter. And then the second chapter is you meet kind of like the main family of the story, and that's Olivia and Paul Sharp, and then their kid Riley Sharp. And so basically Olivia finds out that Riley, her son, is sneaking into their neighbors' homes and kind of like going through their laptops and computers, their personal stuff, but he's not stealing anything. He's just going onto their laptops and like getting their information, and then like also sending out like prank emails from these people's emails. And so Olivia feels so distraught over it. Like she feels like she needs to apologize to these neighbors, but Paul, her husband, is like, no, like they can like sue us or arrest us or whatever, or arrest Riley or whatever. So she writes these anonymous. How do you say that word?
Anonymous.
Anonymous. Okay, I don't know why it sounded like I was saying it wrong. Anonymous. Okay. Anyways, anonymous letters to these neighbors. One of them being Carmen. Her name's Carmen. And then the other one being Robert Pierce. And so that kind of like spirals from there. And so, like Robert reads the letter and he's like, what the fuck? But doesn't really do anything about it. Carmen reads the letter and she's freaked out. Carmen's like an older woman. And so she like kind of goes on a mission to like find who wrote the letter. Robert kind of forgets about it. And then he reports his wife is missing because obviously she was murdered in the first scene. And then her body's found, and then it kind of goes from there. Different stories, they interweb between each other. I thought this book was really cute. Cute, that sounds so weird. To me, it read like a reality TV show because like you kind of get the perspectives of all the neighbors. So it's not just the Sharps. You get Robert's perspective, so the husband whose wife's been murdered. You get a couple different families' perspectives. There's one lady named Glenda who's like Olivia's best friend. There's Robert's neighbor who you get like a lot of her information or like her point of views from too. And then kind of like goes from there. And then the two detectives, you also get like their perspective. And just like they kind of go through the story and then like everything kind of like unveils itself in the end. Like I said, I thought it was cute. I thought it was kind of predictable. Like I was able to figure out who did it pretty quickly on. But I think that might have been like me. Like I've recently found this out about myself. When I'm reading thrillers, like I know it's a good thriller, or even like when I'm watching a thriller, right? Like I know it's a good thriller when I literally cannot guess who did it. Like I had no idea. But this book, the whole entire time, I had an inkling of who did it. And like obviously the author tried to make it seem like, oh, like this person did it, and then like something else comes up and they're like, no, this person did it, but then they're like, oh, but maybe it was this person. Like that's what the author was trying to do. And I feel like maybe I've just read enough thrillers to see through it. And like that's why I only gave it 3 stars, because like I said, it was really cute. I enjoyed it. I finished it pretty quickly. I think it's only like 300 pages. I think I got it done in like 3 days. But it wasn't anything amazing. Like I didn't think about it constantly. And like with a thriller, like that's what I want. Like I want a thriller to consume my mind. And unfortunately this didn't do it for me. But I did think it was cute. Like I thought it was cute. So if you're looking for like a quick thriller, I would recommend this one. Coffee break. So the next book that I read was called A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. If that author's name sounds familiar, she wrote the very popular book on TikTok called Invisible Life of Addie LeRoy. Again, pretend I'm saying those names right. I read that book. I actually gave it a 3. It wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was a pretty good book. However, V.E. Schwab is actually one of my favorite authors. I gave this 4 stars. All right, so what this book is about is Cal. So Cal is an Atari, which means that he is a traveler. Like he can travel through parallels. And so this book is based in London. However, there's 4 different parallels of London. There's the gray London, the red London, the white London, and then the black London. And Cal is from the red London. And he, like I said, he's a traveler, so he can travel to other parallels of London. So it's like London, but it's like a different parallel, if that makes sense. And he works for like the red royal family, and each London has a different amount of magic. And so the black London actually no longer exists because dark magic had absorbed it all. So they like shut the doors, the parallel doors to black London. So you can't go to black London. Then there's white London, and white London is like pretty corrupt. It's ran by these 2 or I guess I don't know if they're twins, the brother and sister, like king and queen. Their names are Astrid and Athos. So Astrid is the girl, Athos is the boy. And they're the like 2 rulers of the white London. And then there's the red London, which Cal is from. And it's ruled by king and queen, I don't remember their name, and then their son, Rye. and pretty much they've adopted Kel into their family. So like they say that Kel is their son, even though like he's not their blood son. And then Rye is like his brother, but like, again, not real brothers, but they call themselves brothers. So they have a ton of magic. And they're like pretty well off. Like the king and queen of Red London is not corrupt. Like everybody in Red London seems pretty happy. And then there's the Grey London, and Grey London has no magic whatsoever. So Grey London would be like our London today, I guess. I've never been to London, so I don't know, but like it has no magic, okay? Those are the 4 Londons. And so what Kel does is he kind of like travels between each parallel and like delivers messages from Red London to these different parallel Londons. And what he also does, which is like kind of illegal, is he smuggles things between each parallels. So like he'll bring something from the Grey London into the Red London, and then something from like the White London into Red London. And like that's not allowed, like that's technically illegal. As before, Black London was like corrupted or overtaken by dark magic. Everyone, like the doors to like the parallel Londons were like open and like anyone could kind of go through them. But then when like the darker magic corrupted the Black London, like they closed the doors. So they didn't want anything, like people weren't allowed to like bring things to other parallels anymore. So what Kel's doing is delivering a message. He is like, he like has a couple drinks with Athos and Astrid, and like he goes to this like bar, which is like one of the stable like architectures in all 4, well I guess, sorry, all 3 Londons. We don't know about Black London, but like that structure is there in that spot in every single London. And so he usually, like that's kind of like where he'll go when he wants to like jump to different Londons. And so he's like on his way there when this like old lady stops him and was like, can you please deliver this to the Red London? Like convinces him basically to like take this artifact with him. And so he agrees to do it. And then he goes back to Red London and he goes to this address that the woman tells him to, and like immediately he's like attacked by this guy. And then turns out that the artifact that he has is actually from the Black London. It's like some black stone, and it's like really, really dark magic. It's strong dark magic. And so pretty much the whole book follows him and like what he needs to do to get rid of this stone. And so he actually, when he's being chased by the bad guys, he goes into Grey London, which again has no magic. And he meets this girl, Lila. And Lila knows nothing about magic whatsoever. She actually steals the stone from him, and he like gets it back from her, but like the only way he can get it back from her is like if he agrees to like let her like come on this adventure to return the black stone to Black London. And so the whole book pretty much follows them trying to get this stone back to Black London. The caveat is that these parallels, they are kind of like neighbors, and you can't just jump from any parallel. So like Grey London has to go to Red London, which then has to go to White London, then it has to go to Black London. Like you can't go from Grey London to Black London, if that makes sense. It's like a door, right? And so they have to like basically jump through each parallel to get to Black London. And so they run into trouble pretty much each parallel that they get to. And so like that's what this book is about. This book was really good. I really, really liked it. I love B.E. Schwab. I love the way that she writes. I love like her mind. Like I just thought this book was so fascinating. There were some things that like I was like, okay, whatever, which is why I didn't get a 5 stars. However, like I just thought it was really good. I liked the ending. I definitely want to read the next one. I think this is a trilogy, so like I definitely want to finish this trilogy. I really liked Lila. Like Kel was cool. Kel was like, I could see Kel being like a book boyfriend. Like he definitely had like all the makings of a book boyfriend. But like what I liked about Lila is that she was like unapologetically herself, and also I could not relate to her at all. Like she was like, she wanted to be a pirate. I don't know that like she also was like poor, like in Grey London. So like she's like on her own, poor, like very like rough, and she owned it. Like she liked being rough, and so I couldn't relate to her, but I really liked her. And I like when an author can make me still like a character I can't relate to. So I really like I said, I think V.E. Schwab did a great job with this book, and I do highly recommend it. All right, so the final book that I read for March is called Good Material by Dolly Alderton. I think that's how you say her name. I'm so sorry if that's not how you say her name. So I gave this book 3 stars, but let me give you the premise of it. So pretty much it's about Andy. It's his perspective. He was just recently broken up by his girlfriend Jen. They dated for 4 years, and pretty much he like does not understand why she broke up with him. And so it's kind of like him like kind of going through the motions. Pretty much Andy is like I don't want to say a washed up comedian, but he pretty much is like a washed up comedian, and he's 35. So like it's his perspective of like being a 35-year-old and now being newly single. So I actually read this book for my book club that I'm in, and actually after talking with like the book club group, like I definitely gained a new perspective on this book. While I was reading it, it did feel like a little slow at times, and like I really hated Andy, and I think that was the point. Like you weren't supposed to like the narrative. However, when I don't like a character, it's just like it's really, really hard for me to like want to keep reading about his perspective. And like I love an anti-hero, don't get me wrong, but like I just like really could not root for Andy. Like, but I thought it was very interesting to see the perspective of like a guy going through a breakup, which I also thought was interesting because this is written by a woman. And like the way, I think she did a good job. I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm not a guy, so I don't know. But I feel like she did a really good job of writing the perspective of like a guy going through a breakup, like a long-term breakup. Pretty much like the shit that Andy does in this book, like it's like right after his breakup, and they tell you like the days. And so like you kind of, it's like the span of like 6 months. So like the first 6 months after his breakup, and like all of his friends are either like married and with kids, or like have seriously committed significant others. And so it's like kind of different than being single in your 20s when like everyone's like, yeah, like let's go out, let's drink, let's go do stupid things. Like none of his friends are at that point in their life anymore. And so it's like him kind of like grappling with the like the fact that he's like single at 35. When like I feel like in today's society, it's like, oh, like by 35, like you should be married and have kids. And so it's like him being like, well, what do I do now? So yeah, like I said, I didn't, again, like it's just, it was hard for me to like root for him, because like it was very much like, oh, woe is me. And I felt like there was like a lot of filler, unfortunately. So that's why I didn't really love this book, but I didn't hate it either. I do think, so at the end, like the last chapter is actually his like girlfriend's perspective, and like why they broke up, or like why she broke up with him. And I feel like that actually really like kind of like brought the whole book together, because I don't know, the perspective was like, it was very interesting, right? Like you only know Andy's perspective, and he's like, I don't understand why she broke up with me. Like we were perfect, like there was nothing wrong. And then like you get to her end, or like her chapter, I guess, and like she explains like it wasn't like one thing, it was like all of these things that like build up. And I feel like that was just so real. Like if you've ever been in a breakup from like a serious relationship, like I feel like you could really relate to that. I know I did. So like I was like, wow, like I did like having her perspective at the end. And I think that's why like this book ended up getting a 3 for me, not anything lower, because I thought it really did tie, like the ending really did tie itself together to this book. However, like I said, I thought it was really slow. There were times where I was like, this guy just needs to get over himself a little bit. And I did find it funny though. There were definitely some times where I chuckled, like out loud, which we love when a book can do. So yeah, that was the last book that I read in the month of March. Yeah, so I'm gonna conclude this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, you wanna see more videos, hopefully I keep posting. I'm thinking about doing maybe like reading vlogs, weekly reading vlogs, like let me know. Also, if you have any suggestions, like I said, I love any type of book, so I definitely would love to hear your recommendations. I felt like this month was pretty mediocre. I had a lot of 3 stars, 1, 2, 1, 4. Some of them I felt like I was being kind of generous too. I maybe could have given some less stars, but anyways, so always up for a recommendation. I kind of want a book that like blows my mind. Right now I'm reading Babel, and that book is like, wow, so good. Like I probably will read that after this, or after like filming this. So we're on to a good start for April. However, if you have any recommendations, please let me know. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Hopefully these videos get better as I go. And yeah, thanks for coming. Anonymous.